This is a half-hour interview I did recently with Colleen Byram for her Evidential Mediumship Development Forum group on Facebook. In the interview, I talk about the ethics of mediumship and the responsibilities of being a medium. I do hope you enjoy the interview.
Hi, everybody. I am Colleen Byram, and I'm one of the admins on Evidential Mediumship Development Forum. And I'm here today. I'm so happy to be here today with my friend Martin Twycross. Martin, if you do not know, is an approved tutor at the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England, which is one of the places we ask people to consider getting a little bit of training from in mediumship. Martin has also put together the, just let me refresh my memory here, a course in mediumship videos and study program, which I have taken, and it is fantastic. And a lot of people I know who are watching this are taking it right now. Martin is just a terrifically generous and gifted teacher of mediumship, and I'm so happy to have him here with us today. Hi, Martin.
Hi there, Colleen. Lovely to be with you. You're making me blush, all those things you're saying.
Well, rightly so, rightly so. Martin, one of the reasons I wanted to get together with you today was to address something that I'm hoping we can talk more about in the mediumship community, and that is our ethical responsibility as mediums. We do talk about it sometimes, but I think we need to give it a little higher profile. Can you sort of give me the top notes of what your thoughts are about our ethical responsibilities as mediums to spirit, to our clients, and to ourselves?
Well, for me, it's a huge area that I'm deeply passionate about because for me, I was trained as a therapist, so I've got a background in therapy. I'm a trained hypnotherapist. And when you work as a therapist, you go through a training program, and you have to work to very high standards, very high ethics, and the responsibilities are stressed so strongly to you in doing that. And then I came from that to mediumship, and I was quite surprised that people can go out there after just doing a few classes and tell people they're a medium, and they can go out into the world and do mediumship. And there's a lot of it about, some people think, well, if I do a year's classes, that will make me a medium, and I'll then start charging people and working with it. And for me, one of the areas you very rarely hear taught is the ethics and responsibilities of mediumship. And you mentioned my videos and study program, and it's one of the parts I stress very strongly within that, because I'm so passionate that mediums work to the highest standards, the highest ethics. They understand the responsibility that goes with it. And for me, mediumship is an ability, is a gift like any other, and we can use it to really help people. It can help in so many ways. It's such a powerful tool to help people. But in the wrong hands, with somebody who doesn't understand what they're doing, it can cause so much damage. I often talk about mediums who harm and mediums who heal.
So what I hear you saying is that part of the ethical responsibility we have as mediums, if I've got this wrong, correct me, but it sounds like part of our responsibility is to approach the work seriously enough that we study for a significant period of time and learn everything that we can.
Yeah, I think, most people want to do mediumship. They want to get practice. For me, I think we need to understand the theoretical basis. We need to think about the ethics and the responsibilities. We need to think about how it could cause harm, how it could cause damage, so that if we think about it, we're less likely to do anything wrong. I've got thousands of examples within my mind of mediums who've done crazy things and created so much harm. But equally, mediumship is the most beautiful tool. It can heal souls. It can uplift people. When we reunite loved ones, it's the most amazing thing in the world. There's so much wonder and value that comes out of mediumship. But equally, done badly, mediumship can cause people intense pain, anxiety, fear. It can even poor quality mediumship can even take people to the point of going to spirit even. Yeah. So, it's that whole range, that from doing amazing to doing incredibly badly. And so that's why, for me, I'm passionate about the ethics of it. Absolutely.
So it's almost like we need a Hippocratic oath for mediumship: first, do no harm. So,
yeah, we need like a code of conduct, really.
Yeah,
a framework to work within, and that we understand the ways in which mediums can cause harm as well. Because if we understand it and think about it, then we're less likely to do it ourselves. We're more likely to say, I see. Yes.
So what is an example of a way that, give me one example of a way in which a medium can cause harm?
Uh, there are there are so many. You know, I know mediums who've predicted people's death, who've said you're going to die in X months' time, X years' time. I even knew one lady who had been diagnosed with cancer, and a medium said to her, "You're going to die in 4 months' time," and she passed in 2 months' time. And I believe it took away hope. I believe in her mind, it took away that reason to live. If you believed the prediction, it takes away that, you know, nobody knows when it's your time apart from, I believe, the Great Spirit God. So I think predictions is one particularly bad area. I've seen mediums from platform with my own eyes say to people, you've got a spirit attachment with you. You need to go and see an exorcist. And the person is just so frightened, so fearful, so anxious, until we explain to them that that's not the reality. That's not the case. That medium really shouldn't have said that to you. You know, there are so many examples. I myself have worked in areas where people say, will you give that young girl a reading? And I'll say, well, how old is she? And they'll say, well, she's 13 or 14. And I'll say, I'm really sorry. No way. I won't work with anybody under the age of 18 for the simple reason that young people are very vulnerable. They can be influenced very easily, and they don't always understand exactly what we as mediums are doing. And generally, they don't understand the implications of going to a medium. So, you know, if you tell me to do a reading for a young boy or girl, whoa, it's like that's, and equally working with vulnerable adults as well. We have to have extreme care with that. I've seen mediums express in public extremely confidential things. I've seen somebody say to somebody, you were abused as a child in public, in a public environment, which, you know, you just think, well, that's not even something I would easily say in a reading, never mind in front of an audience.
Right.
It's not somewhere you'd go.
Right.
I've seen spirit abused really badly by mediums as well. I've seen a medium talk about an old man coming through, and that this old man kept wetting himself and he smells terrible. And yeah, this is someone's loved one we're bringing through. This is someone's grandfather. And why would you do that? You're disrespecting the spirit world. You're disrespecting that communicator, and it's not fair to the recipient. You know, you could work in a way by saying, I've got a gentleman here. I know he found it hard to look after himself at the end, and he wasn't always able to preserve his dignity the way he would like. And that's a nice professional way of saying and getting across a meaning. And another example I'll give you, a medium who gave somebody who was in a motorcycle accident, and he said, the body's here and here's the head over there. And I just thought, you know, that's just so crazy.
Oh my God.
Exactly. It's the shock value. And that's what happens with the audience. They go, oh. And you think to yourself, there's just no need for it. Why not just say, I know that there was catastrophic injuries, but I'm not going to go into it. And you don't need to say it. So, you know, there's so many ways in which we can cause harm. That's just a few off the top of my head I can think of. I maintain a list, and it's probably about 12 pages long of some crazy things I hear. I'll give you another example of how mediumship can really harm. Is people can come to us if they're suicidal. People can come to us and they want to take their own life. And if we say it's wonderful in the spirit world, they may do it. And there was a tape recording found of a suicidal person who went to a medium. And in this recording, the medium told them to go ahead and do it. And then this recording was discovered, as you can imagine, and put all over the press in the UK. Medium encouraged sitter to commit suicide. Now, again, we have a duty as mediums to, you know, prevent harm. If someone comes to us who's suicidal, we should be doing everything within our power to get them to seek help, to preserve life. You know, that's the basic requirement of us as a human being, never mind as a medium. So to do something as crazy as that. So for me, we have to think about all these things. We have to understand that we have as mediums, we have such a huge responsibility, a responsibility to the spirit world, a responsibility to each communicator. We are the voice piece. We allow them to reestablish a connection of love with their loved one. It's such a profound, wonderful thing. We need to show them the responsibility and the respect they're owed. We've got a responsibility to our sitters, to our audiences, to churches, to other mediums, to the organization of spiritualism. There's so many responsibilities that come with it.
So when I think about our community of mediums, and there's a range of how we all practice. You know, some of us are
absolutely
more experienced, less experienced. We're all lifelong learners. We're all learning. I immediately want to understand how can we raise the floor underneath mediumship so that there's a level of performance below which we cannot fall. And for me, what I come back to is experience and practice in development circles. If you're in development circle long enough, it's almost an infinite number of monkeys on an infinite number of typewriters thing. I hope that if we stay in development circle long enough, we will be exposed to enough situations and conditions that we find the language, that we connect, that we mature as humans in circle, that we witness things that enlarge our capacity, and also that our unfoldment has time to occur in the time that it needs to occur, the work that the spirit world is doing on our behalf. Am I missing something? What else can we do?
Well, I think that would be an ideal, but the problem you have within that is a lot of circles are run by people who don't have a great deal of good training themselves. For me, it's a training issue, and it's greatest form, because if you have people who run circles who do things badly, they're not going to pick up their students for it themselves anyway. So, and if they don't understand the issues, I often find that bad mediums teach bad mediums and create bad mediums. And so we're looking at really raising the standard of the quality. But I believe that, you know, we really need to have some degree of teaching that talks about ethics. With my own teaching as well, I like to give people scenarios. I will put people in a scenario. A sitter's come to see you who is suicidal. What are you going to do about it? And we put people, if you like, we take training scenarios that we would face as therapists, and then we suggest them, think about it. What would you do? Would you have a number of an organization that if you're suicidal, they could call? Would you seek to do a follow-up call with them the day later or a couple of days later to check how they are? You know, what would you do in that scenario to make people think? You know, there isn't always a right and wrong answer, but at least if you think about it, then you would understand better what you can do. So for me, again, a good circle, whenever something comes up that has got a very strong ethical viewpoint, the circle leader needs to be able to then chip in and give the theory. For example, if someone brings through somebody and the person in the audience says, I don't know if they're living or not, and the person says, well, I've definitely got them here, they're definitely in spirit, I would say at the end, no, you can't do that. I would say it is possible to connect with the living in certain circumstances. It may be somebody else in the spirit world giving you information about that person for them to get in touch and make a connection. So you cannot say for definite that person is spirit side. So I would always say, I'm not putting them in spirit, but I'm just giving you what I'm getting. And it may be for you to connect with that person. It may be for you to see how they are. And sometimes they may find that when they check it out, yes, the person is in spirit. And when they check it out, sometimes the person isn't. But just because you feel you have a link with that person in spirit, you can't put them there. That's the ethics is we can't take them there. Right. The worst case scenario of that one that I can think of is during the war, there was a lady whose husband was missing in action. And she went to see a medium to find out if he was still alive or dead. Medium says, oh, I've got him here, gave all this evidence about him. He's definitely dead. Move on with your life. She found somebody else, remarried. And after this gentleman was released from a Japanese prisoner of war camp, he came home to his wife to find she was with somebody else and had moved on, all based upon what a medium had said. And he wasn't passed at all. And that is the damage and harm. And that man probably spent years in a prisoner of war camp. The thing that kept him going was his wife. And that was destroyed by a medium who didn't understand the ethics of what they're saying and the responsibility of the job that comes with it. So in an ideal world, good quality teaching should flag up a lot of these issues. But we, as you say, we have to develop ourselves as well to be responsible, to be tactful, to develop ourselves spiritually, so we understand that and watch other mediums working and see where they go wrong. That's what I do. I watch other mediums and go, no, I would definitely not have said it that way. I would think, no, you can't say that. That's really not good. And many a time I've chased a person out of a church and just grabbed them and said, what you've been told is not accurate. What you've been told there, let go of it. For example, just recently, I saw a medium say to somebody, have you got a problem with your car? And the person said, no. And he said, well, I'm pressing on this pedal, but this pedal is ever so spongy and the brakes don't seem to work. Is that with your car, or could that be with somebody else? So you can imagine this person's going to walk out of a church and think, I've got a problem with my car, I need to get it fixed, or it's my husband's car, or it's my son's car, or it's my daughter. Someone's got a problem with their car and their brake pedal, ring everybody up, you've got problems. And they could worry for the rest of their lives about somebody dying because of a problem with the brakes.
Right. And who's satisfied in that equation? It's the medium who stood on the platform and looked like they were really smoking because they picked up on that brake thing. Everybody else leaves thinking, wow.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's a throwaway line from the medium, which can have a huge amount of harm down the line that we don't understand the consequences of. And I spoke to somebody who was given that exact scenario, who became so worried about their car that they sold their car and went and bought another one, and it cost them thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars to do so. It incurred a huge cost to them because of doing that, because of a throwaway comment given by a medium, which, again, it's psychically, where they're picking up from somebody else's energy in the audience. You know,
who knows?
This doesn't need to be said.
Well, we touched on this next bit a little bit earlier when you were talking about finding the right language. You were talking about the spirit who came through who had trouble maintaining his level of dignity at the end of the life. And the medium used unfortunate, really indelicate language to describe that. This is a statement in the form of a question. I find that when, for whatever reason, I have a lot of the spirit people who come to me have been predators, sexual predators in life, and I also, for whatever reason, have a lot of people who have died by suicide. Particularly with the people who were predators in life, I have to determine if my sitter is willing to take this contact, because sometimes they're not.
No, absolutely not. Exactly. And you have to respect their wishes.
And what I think I have learned is that when these people first come through, at least with me, they're very, it feels to me like they are coming in atonement. They are coming through to say, this is what I did. I am acknowledging that which I kept so secret in life. And it's important to find a language, a non-graphic, not to further traumatize the sitter, right? With the language to use. So, well, I'll pause there. I have a further thought about it. I'll hand it back to you to carry on. Or is it just carry on?
And I think the thing to understand is that if we do enough readings, we're going to encounter that exact scenario of abusers. We're going to encounter suicidal people who have passed through suicide, all those kind of things. They're going to come up within a reading if we do enough readings, absolutely. And generally for me, if somebody in that scenario comes back, they do come back to take responsibility. I believe, first and foremost, all people are only allowed to communicate if their intent is positive and to create healing. So that, I believe if they're not ready to do that, they would not be allowed to come and communicate through the medium. I believe it's managed spirit side, so to be that way, because you cannot have somebody abusing somebody in this lifetime and then abusing them from spirit. That would not be allowed. That, for me, that goes against all natural law. So if they come through, they're going to come through to take responsibility. They're going to come through to try and help the situation, to try and create some degree of healing or benefit. But if the sitter says, I'm really sorry, I don't want that communicator, we have a responsibility as mediums to say, okay, say to the communicator, I'm really sorry, she's not willing to accept it at this moment in time, or he's not willing to accept it at this moment in time. I can't work with you, but thank you for coming. Maybe you can try again later. But we can't force it onto, I've seen it forced onto people when they don't want it. And that's wrong, because when we're talking with trauma, it can come back to the surface, and it can bring back all those feelings. Worst case scenario, it can make someone suicidal. Worst case scenario, it can take people to a point of being in a very dark place. So we have to tread very, very carefully. And the more knowledge we have the more therapeutic knowledge we have as mediums, the better. And similarly with bereavement as well, we need to understand things like the Kubler-Ross model of bereavement, the 5-stage model, because we're going to have numerous people who come through our doors for sittings who are in one of those stages of bereavement. And it's important we understand that. So for me, we've got to be respectful of the sitter. We've got to be respectful of the communicator. We've got to do our best to find the right language that doesn't provoke more trauma. But equally, if it becomes too much, we have to stop. If the person doesn't want it, we have to not give it. For me, whenever suicides come through, generally, they come to say they're sorry. They come to say they now recognize it created a lot of harm here. But we have to recognize with them it was mental illness as well. And I have heard mediums say, this gentleman committed suicide and he's now subject to, a lot of suffering in the spirit world because of it. And again, I disagree entirely. If someone passes through suicide, mentally, they're very, very unwell. And the spirit world is a world of love. They're going to be met with love. They're going to be given the healing they need, and they're going to be given the help they need to work through it.
So this is one of my major pet peeves in mediumship, because I think it's such a harmful practice. When these people come to me who I know who are showing me what they did in life, and it was criminal and it was abusive and it was bad, I know that they're telling me a story of how they were in life.
Yes.
I know that they are not saying, this is how I am right now, because I know Absolutely. That they're in the light. It's for me, I think of it more as quantum physics than spiritual law or religious law. I don't want to get us sidetracked, because I know you and I can go down the wormhole on that. But I know that they're in the light, and they're only acknowledging this behavior as part of this atonement process, and entirely for the benefit of the sitter, I believe. When people come to us in spirit, they are showing us how they will be recognized by the sitter, not
Absolutely.
How they are now in spirit.
Yeah, I agree totally. Because if somebody came forward and presented a totally different personality to how the person has memories of them here, they wouldn't take it. So the spirit has to show themselves and give evidence that is understood by the sitter. Similarly, if that person came forward and never mentioned what took place between them, which is quite frankly the elephant in the room, it's probably the most traumatic experience they have in common. If they didn't acknowledge it, again, the sitter would say, well, was it really them? So it's part and parcel of the evidence, but because they will come forward to help create healing, generally they're going to come forward to acknowledge responsibility for it, but to acknowledge that they understand, that they wish to change, that they wish to apologize, and they wouldn't ask for forgiveness necessarily, because that would be for the sitter to give it in their own time. And if the sitter is angry with them, wishes to remain angry with them for their entire life, that is equally the sitter's allowed to do that. We cannot judge. As mediums, we're the middleman. We have to be incredibly non-judgmental. We cannot jump to conclusions. We have to be so respectful, so tactful, so compassionate to all parties involved. And those qualities aren't always taught within a circle. Those are qualities we have to develop ourselves. I have a list of attributes of a good medium, which is, and but a lot of that is self-development. We have to do it. We have to become a better person ourselves. And I often say to a lot of mediums that they should go away and do healing for many, many reasons. Because the first one, it does develop compassion, and it exposes you to a huge amount of scenarios where you'll see different people's perspectives on it. If you're doing healing, you're going to see so many different aspects of life that when you get a communicator and there's a similar scenario, you'll understand all sides of the coin, and you'll deliver it in a much more compassionate, a much more tactful, a much more caring way. Some people I see become mediums, and there's a bit of an ego trip, a bit of a power trip. It's you know, some people do it for fame and fortune. And again, they ride roughshod over those kind of issues. They just don't even think about them. They just throw these words out that can just create so much harm and cause so much harm and cause so much damage. But as I believe that as mediums, our job is to create positive outcomes, to create healing, but at the very least, to do no harm. I'm a big fan of the Dalai Lama in that he said, whatever we do, we should do no harm. And if you like, that should be the mantra for all mediums. We should do no harm. Absolutely.
Amen. Thank you, Martin. Are you just preaching to the choir here? I hope our community feels the same way.
I hope so too.
A couple of little footnotes to that wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. I just want to remind our community that we are requested by various psychological and medical communities to, when we refer to someone who has died by suicide, to use the language died by suicide or passed by suicide. It is regarded within that world that committed suicide is pejorative. It's a bad way to talk about it. It causes pain to the survivors. So let's try and shift our language to that. And Martin is really careful about that. The other footnote I wanted to add to it is that now I'm blathering on here, but just real quickly. One of the things I have heard over and over again from sitters who have been able to take evidence from what I would call a predator, who's defining themselves as a predator, one of the things I've heard over and over from these sitters is, I cannot believe he is admitting it. He never in a million years would have admitted it in life. So when these contacts can occur, they can be incredibly healing, but again, we have to be super respectful about, can the sitter go there? And you can feel it coming off of them. You can feel the fear coming off of them sometimes if they know they don't want to be anywhere near. Absolutely. Thank you for coming. Goodbye. They're gone. Don't worry about it. Right? So, okay. Well, Martin, what else would you like to add at the end of my soliloquy?
Yeah, for me, really, if we all just think about where the responsibility we have lies, ultimately, we have personal responsibility for everything we say and do. As mediums, the messages we give, we have to take responsibility for. And ultimately, I think there's a lot of mediums who one day will find themselves in the spirit world who thought they did a great job when they were here. And there'll be somebody just to show them, actually, your lack of understanding, your lack of compassion, your lack of awareness, your throwaway lines actually created a great deal of harm. And it may have even undone all the good work you did. If we at least think about these things, I believe that we're going to be far better mediums. If we always err on the side of caution, if we always try and remain respectful, compassionate at all times, if we don't feel we should say something, try and find another way of saying it. Be very careful. Don't just say it. Don't just come out with it. And the thing is, in the heat of the moment, sometimes it's not always easy to reframe words. You know, I probably used the word committed suicide myself when I was talking there. I don't know if I did or I didn't. You know, but if I was delivering it in a reading, I'd have a gentleman here. I would bring it in gently that played a part in their own passing, that ultimately was responsible for taking themselves to the spirit world. And I would never come out with it straight away. I would build up to it. We always want to gently bring things forward, and so that, because otherwise it comes with what I call a bit of a shock value. It can hit us energetically, so we have to be careful we don't push too hard with that. And plus, you know, we're talking about somebody's loved one here. We must always remember that these are real people. They're still alive, and the person in front of us, who they belong to, loves them. They're still family or friend, and these are real people. We need to be showing them the utmost respect. We need to be showing them the utmost care. We are that moment in time where we reunite two souls. We create the miracle, but we have to create the conditions for the miracle to create healing. And I think that's what we should think about. Are we creating the right conditions? Are we allowing that healing to take place and to touch souls? Are we allowing the miracle to happen? That beauty of all of that mediumship. It's such a wonderful thing. So if we can do that, we're doing a fabulous thing.
Oh, well said. Thank you, Martin. That's wonderful. Martin, before we go, before we wrap up, I just want to direct everyone to your website. If you want to learn more about Martin's mediumship course, a course in mediumship, it's both videos and very detailed instructional materials. Martin is an incredibly generous teacher. He gives in my experience, there are mediums out there teaching who teach with McNuggets. They'll give you a couple of little McNuggets, and then you think, "Woo! Wow, I'm going to go drive these McNuggets around." Martin doesn't teach that way. He breaks everything down into fundamentals and really creates experiences and all this sort of mediumship technology, for lack of a better word, to help us really know how to do this work more authentically in a more attuned way. So strongest recommendation. Your website is?
It's www.martintwycross.com. And I do have videos available, and I have a study program based on those videos. And with my teaching, I would say if I know it, you can have it. I don't hold anything back. I don't believe in drip feeding. I don't believe in just giving you one piece at a time. If I know it, you can have it. If it'll make you a better medium, here, go with it.
And with that, I encourage everyone to get themselves over to the website. Also, I should really have to note that Martin's courses are incredibly fairly priced. And I don't want to belabor that because, he'll have to raise his prices more, but his program is incredibly fairly priced.
Martin, I like to keep them affordable.
Well, you've done that, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and with your messages and with your insight into how we can, what we should be mindful of as we go forward with our mediumship. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colleen, for having me here.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.
If you would like to learn more about the ethics and responsibilities of mediumship, I have produced a more comprehensive video on this. It is my Mediumship Class 9 video titled Ethics and Responsibilities of Mediumship. It runs for just over 2.5 hours and is available as both a video download and a DVD. There is a link to it in the video description below. I also offer a series of 24 videos covering all aspects of mediumship, Mediumship Classes 1 to 12, plus an additional 12 special topics videos. They are all available as video downloads or DVDs from my website, which is www.martintwycrossproducts.co.uk.